Hi everyone, this is an overview of the projects for the painting class, sections 50, 51, and 52, which are beginning, intermediate, and advanced painting. So I'm just going to go through them in order. For Art 50, we have 4 projects that we complete. The first one is our monochromatic project. And in the monochromatic project, we're basically working on using a value scale of 10, going from 1 to black with all the grays mixed in between, so 8 steps of gray in between those two, and then using that value scale to represent your light, logic, and color appropriately. One of the things that we're looking to do is learn how to create volume within the painting, three-dimensional volume. We also want to learn how to represent different colors appropriately, such as a darker teapot against a lighter object. So the still lifes that I have you guys set up are going to be made up of a variety of several different objects and then a little bit of drapery. And you will use those objects to kind of build all these different things. You can see in here that all of these still lives were ones that were set up in the class before we went into pandemic response. And so I always make sure to have something that's transparent in the still life and something that's reflective in the still life. And I know that you guys might be limited on the objects you can use, but if you can find something like that, that would be great. I think that it looks really intimidating to paint these kinds of objects, but it's actually just a matter of representing your values correctly as you go, and it's a lot easier than you might think. You'll notice that when you paint something that is transparent, behind it you take the same values that you're painting and make them slightly darker. And you just continue that drawing of whatever, like in this case, the drapery is going behind. And then if you're painting something that reflects, you take those same values that you're representing in the reflection and you make them a little bit darker, and then just look at softening your edges just a little bit. There's different things that are strengths or weaknesses on a lot of these paintings, but I think overall they represent a nice selection of student-done work to kind of give you an idea of what I'm looking for in that project. The next project we do in the beginning class is the master copy. And both this painting as well as the third painting are done in what we call a limited palette. Limited palette is limited by certain colors that you're allowed to use, and that's it. You're not allowed to use any other colors. It is delineated in the module for this, and for both painting number 2 and 3, you are only using those colors. So, and then you're picking from a slide or a folder of images that I've put together that has all kinds of different master paintings. And one of the things that we're looking to do as we do the master copy is to just get a little bit more used to working in color, but to do it in a more controlled fashion, so we're not just hitting a bunch of really bright color right off the bat, and to really hold on to our values. It's very important as we go into this project to make sure that we're getting our darks and lights accurately. That's right. So by working in these limited palettes, it's a little bit easier for you to control that outcome. And what I've tried to do is when I have images where maybe a couple students or several students painted the same thing, I've put those images in here so that you can see how different students treat the same process with what they need to do. Hold on, let me go back. Okay, so these are just different master copies that people have done in the class, and you can see when you look at them that actually for the most part a lot of them don't look that different. They don't look like they're just painted with earth colors, and that's basically all that's used for something like this is just earth colors. Burnt sienna, which is a brick red color, black, yellow ochre, and you mix things like the greens and oranges using the yellows and blacks and the reds and so on. But these are all pretty nice representations as far as shadow and light. These next few are all the same painting, and I did this painting last semester as a demo as well, although that's not in here. But these are all basically different artists, different students that painted that same painting, and so very nicely done, really nice sense of kind of light and shadow and trying to hold on to the light and shadow. I think introducing you to color and value all at once can be really a difficult step, and so many people feel like not so much this one, but the next painting, painting number 3, is the toughest one that we do in this class, and that painting at number 4 is actually pretty easy. But part of the reason that painting number 4 is easier is because of the lessons you learn in number 3. So it's really important to pick images that are going to allow you to find a wide range of like color and shadow and be able to work through it. And these are all good representations of the project. We've got a few more left here we'll go through. And sometimes quite different. You can see the difference between this one and this one in the way that they've represented the color. This is one that's not in the, that has a ton of detail. So some really nice images overall. The third painting you do is the limited palette still life. And since we've moved online, they're doing this from a photograph again, so it's a little bit easier than working from a regular still life at home. I've set up a folder of images that I've taken, but these were actually, the ones that you're seeing here in this slideshow were almost all done from actual still lifes. And that says a lot for like the way that they've controlled the color within them, the way they've seen the light and shadow. Like this is one that really is nice. You can see that even though this isn't a purple, it represents a lavendery purple in this image. And all this green here is mixed using that yellow ochre and black mixed together. Okay, so just different ways of representing it. What is really important to me is starting to control your color temperatures, warm and cool, and understanding what those are, as well as controlling your value and keeping your value really paramount to understanding how to do volumes on forms, how to get like reflected light and shadow areas versus light areas, and so on. As soon as you let go of that, it becomes not as solid of a painting. This is a really nice one right here, and this is the same subject matter, and you can see how violet toned, kind of a violet pink, this lavender drapery is, and the bright colors that they were able to get out of that limited palette here. So getting those brighter colors out is kind of a factor of understanding how to mix, how to make good shadows out of a color instead of muddy shadows, and we'll talk about all that as long as I'm explaining the palette a little bit better as we get closer to it. It's another one with a lot of really nice color. The final painting within the monochromatic, within the beginning painting is the full color palette. And these are some of the paintings that were done from that palette. Most of these I have not updated as much. So these right here, although within the full color lecture, I have updated them for sure. But these here were all done photos before I started setting up the still lives. You guys do have the photo file that these came from to work from. But then I updated the lecture that I do in the for that module is updated with images that are both from photos such as this, as well as images that are done from actual still lives. So again, we're looking now at using full color, but trying to not let the color overtake what we're doing where it becomes overly saturated and unreal, and that we really keep a good sense of shadow and light, a nice feeling for a complex volume being simplified down so that it can be read. There's different ways of looking at this and interpreting these, and since you guys are working from the photos, you'll be able to crop down and choose what it is you want to focus on. This one right here is a really nice example of a very kind of Baroque type painting. That same lighting and really rich, they even did a little bit of glazing in this. I helped them out with it because they were going to be done a little early. This one is the exact same photograph, it's just cropped differently. But there are some really nice things as far as like the way they controlled the coolness of the color temperatures in here. So there's good and bad with pretty much every painting that comes through the class. Areas that maybe somebody else got a little bit stronger and you got a little bit less strong, and vice versa. So just kind of be aware it's a learning process. Intermediate. So the first painting we start with is the glazing project. And the glazing project is a two-part project. We work on it at the beginning of the semester, and we do basically a monochromatic painting. This is not monochromatic here, what you're seeing. This is the finished painting. Okay, but once we start that module, you'll see in the lecture that I've got examples of the monochromatic paintings. So the monochromatic paintings are basically done with black and umber and white, and you paint your entire painting being true to the values that you need to represent. And then all of the rich color that you're seeing here is what we do later on in the semester when we go ahead and use transparent pigments. Some pigments are transparent and some are opaque, like white is always opaque. Or semi-opaque, whereas some colors like alizarin crimson, which is kind of a maroony red, is very transparent. So we use transparent pigments to put all the color on this. So this is actually started out like a black and white painting basically, and all the color is put on with pigments that you can see through, so you still see the monochromatic painting underneath, but you add the color with the transparent layers. And that's basically how all of these paintings were worked. Some of them it's a little bit more apparent than others, just because you can kind of see how they had a harder time getting away from the monochromatic painting. But a lot of them, some of these look like very bright colored paintings, and they did a nice job of controlling and getting away from the monochromatic underpainting. This is one that probably feels more monochromatic with little bits of color. This one here, not so much, but then this one kind of feels a little bit like that as well. So that's basically the way we work on that. The next, another project that we will do in there, the projects in the class are not necessarily in the order I'm showing them for the 51 right now, is the collage design. And in the collage design, I've updated that PowerPoint so that, or that lecture for that specific module, or I should say I'm updating it. This shows some of the updated slides in there, but I'm adding some of the work that people did this last semester when we went online the second half of the semester, because they actually did some phenomenal projects. But the idea with the collage design is to take together different elements that aren't necessarily in the same picture space and combine them to convey some sort of a theme or represent some sort of an idea. So you can kind of see what I mean. It's a little bit more of a contemporary design problem and conceptual design problem, because you have to really think about what you're going to put together. It might actually contain collaged elements, such as here there are newspaper clippings that are collaged in, but not necessarily. Sometimes the paintings are just different elements that are put together to create the new image that that person is working on. These are 3 different elements here, and then this branch is actually a branch that connects them, that's attached to the outside of the board. So these are just different representations of the same project and how people interpreted it. And a lot of times it really helps to work from a more personal angle with what you're doing. The master copy project is a 2-part project. The first part is where you do a copy of a master painting, and I've given you guys a folder of images you can select from, and if you want to do something different, you just need to get it approved. And then the second part is where you're supposed to take the style of that master and reinterpret a photograph or something that you want to paint from in the style of that master. So this is a Cezanne, and then this is the one that they interpreted. I had some nice examples from that this last semester also. This is a Van Gogh, and this is their interpretation. This is a Van Gogh, and this is their interpretation. So you kind of get the idea. So basically, people are taking, most often, a Van Gogh or a Monet, and then reinterpreting a photograph that they found like on the internet or someplace, and reinterpreting it in the style. So the Van Gogh, and then this was the reinterpretation. And there's just some interesting ways. Some people more successfully than others. Like this is one where this is a copy of a Van Gogh, but I don't feel like this is anything Van Gogh would have painted. I think they might have been better off painting like a Monet and then trying to transfer more of the style of Monet to what they wanted to do. It's a beautiful painting, don't get me wrong, but it's not really in the style of Van Gogh. And then some of them, it's a little too close. It's like they've picked almost the exact same subject matter. So this is one that I felt was pretty successful here. It's a copy of a Van Gogh and then a reinterpretation of Venice as Van Gogh would have painted it. So that's kind of what you want to keep in mind with it. Okay, and then the advanced class, it's basically almost like an independent study. You guys are going to come up with your own projects. So this next series of 4 slides are basically one person wanted to do portraits. So I suggested doing a copy of a Bouguereau first and getting a little bit of a feel, because that was an artist that she liked, so getting a little bit of a feel for his palette. And then these are the images that she reinterpreted in that style and using some of what she learned from that painting. Okay, and then this person wanted to do some landscapes. I've only got 2 of her images in here, but they were landscapes from places in Southern California, actually Orange County. And then this person was someone who wanted to do more illustrative work. So I only have a couple slides of hers in here, but these are hers. And then this person did kind of a series of some portraits where she reinterpreted these magazine photos and changed them into more of a contemporary painting. This one right here, these next 3 were from the same artist. And so she came up with a lot of photo reference and compositional designs. These next few are from the same artist. And these were all larger canvases. Another one that she did is actually in the collage painting area in 51. That was where she got the idea for these. And then these are all from an artist. And he did a bunch of smaller paintings within the class. And then these were from somebody that was doing abstract work. Real interesting the way she was taping and painting and putting things on top of that. And then these are some from someone else. And these next few are from another lady that wanted to combine some different imagery together and paint people. And then these are from a landscape painter. These are a series of illustrations from a guy that was applying at our art center and got accepted, so he's up there studying now using gold leaf. And then these were a series of some portraits. Landscapes. I only have one of this artist's work in here. He did some other pieces, but he did a series of like multimedia. So I keep this in just so that you guys realize you don't have to always do like classical type painting. Some people do some really different stuff, like these collage assembly pieces. Okay, that's about it.